Good morning, Chicago. Welcome to another episode of Bites Over Radio. Thank you guys for joining us on your morning commute this morning, Chicago. With me in the studio, as always, is one Miss Heather Brown.
Dun-dun-dun. Hello.
One Mr. Brett Mackey.
Hello.
And a new MC to the crew here, Jesse Chartier.
Howdy, howdy.
Come on in. I'm your other MC, John Osler. We got a great episode for you guys today. Who's on the show today?
We got Aaron from Redline VR talking about what's coming down the pike in all things VR tech.
And VR, is it going to be the future or is it going to go the way of the 3D TV, Brett?
I just bought a 3D TV, so if you're telling me
You got
nobody's watching it,
You got a Blu-ray avatar? Go with that?
Of course I do.
There we go.
But it's a great episode. We get to learn a lot about how VR is actually helping humans connect more with their environment around them and with each other.
That's right. So we've got a real awesome take on this. Aaron is really great. They're doing something new. We think there is maybe a more human VR coming at you, so definitely tune into this episode. Shall we get on to it?
Let's do it.
Uh-huh.
Today's episode is brought to you by 8-Bit Studios, a global leader in mobile and website product strategy in Chicago. If you're in need of digital or product strategy, a native app or web app, reach out to them at 8bitstudios.com.
.net. Hi, I'm Jesse.
And Brett's here today, too.
And we got Aaron in the studio. Aaron.
Hi.
Hi. So you're with Redline VR.
That's right.
Talk a little bit about what that is.
Well, Redline VR is the barcade of the future. It's a bar that has virtual reality entertainment or augmented reality entertainment infused into everything we can. Like, I want it in the bathrooms, frankly. But we'll have a mixed reality escape room. We'll have the bar itself has some VR components to it. And then, of course, it's surrounded, the bar is immersed and surrounded by an arcade by like kind of 8 foot by 8 foot VR bays where people can play any number of games.
Sweet. Can you talk about a few of the games that are...
Well, yes, by far, like the first classic of the VR gaming era is Beat Saber, and they just came out with a new music pack that is hot. It's so fun. It's lightsabers meets Guitar Hero. So these things come at you. The music's going. It's intuitive. You slash the lightsabers on the beat. I don't know what to say other than it's like you're in Dance Dance Revolution and you just somehow know exactly what to do. You're challenged, your heart's going, it's an adrenaline rush. That's one. If you like to shoot zombies, boy, we can do you a favor. And then also there's things that I love that aren't so like macho and gun and goal oriented. That's like... There's this paint game where you can just like be on the moon and paint in 3 dimensions, and it's peaceful. I just made like a little tree, and then I sat down underneath my tree that I made. I loved it. It's
what a special
it's
moment.
So great. Yeah. I made a moment for myself.
Yeah,
I did.
yeah.
So we're gonna do like wine and paint nights for stuff like that.
Very cool. Very cool. And so how did you land in the VR world? And build this empire.
The way I do most things, it was kind of falling backwards. So I started a theater company a long time ago in grad school, also on accident. And one of those people in that theater company is now my business partner. He lived in LA about 5 years after I lived in LA. He's moving to Chicago. I'm getting let go of my job in Chicago. I've got a brand new baby girl, and I've got a 3-year-old boy. And it's like, what are we gonna do, best friend? What are we gonna do? And he had just had the first Oculus come out before it was really out, the beta. And he and I would teach these kids in Nebraska so that they can see what life's like outside of Nebraska. And we would always use that as a chance to explore something we didn't know. Well, one year he brought this Oculus headset. And so we tried it. And we tried it for 20 minutes. And then the next day our brains had been thinking about it since then. And just... It's almost, I don't know what to say other than for me, it was just life-changing that we were trying to figure out, how did that work? Why did I feel this way about it? What happened to me? And we're hooked ever since.
That's a great story. I love a good best friend story.
Yeah.
You know, someone just pulled you up.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you have that theater background because you're talking, there's such a bridge between storytelling at VR versus theater. Can you talk a little bit about kind of your experience in that regard? Like, where does the audience fit in all of this, in this gameplay or this experience, these tree moments that you've made?
Yeah.
Where does that sit?
Well, okay, so I've got a lot of feelings about this. So the boil it down version is my master's degree is actually in the direction of stage and screen. And so I did a lot of contemplating about what is that difference. And in one way of talking about it is that when you're at a movie theater, they make it dark on purpose, and they have a big light screen in front of you on purpose so that you disappear and you go, like where you are, quote unquote, goes into the screen. You become part of that. You become less yourself in a way and more them. Theater, ideally, is the opposite in that they still do that a lot in modern times, is that they will darken the audience. But Shakespeare's day, the core essence of theater is you start to self-identify as a group, as an audience, and you are part of the interaction. There's no pretending that the actors can't hear you. Well, this becomes very important to me in my life. And so I don't want VR to be this thing that is done mostly by guys living in their mom's basement with Cheeto dust on their bellies. I want this to be a thing that groups do outside together, that go out, more like bowling, let's say. It's a physical activity. It's an immersive activity, and it just needs to be able to be shared. Long story short, that's the goal of Redline VR, is to make it a group activity that can be shared, and that it's almost a performance. Actually, I had a fight with the architect to move the entrance 20 feet over, because it was like you were walking in on stage as opposed to walking in the house, because the people playing are kind of performing. And when you sit there and have your drink afterwards, you're going to watch somebody else in their good jeans bending down and like knocking out some Beat Sabers, and it's fun to watch.
So it sounds pretty cool. We got to get over there.
For sure.
Is it set up best for groups? Is it more of an individual experience? Like what's it best suited for, or is it for everyone?
I mean, so the games themselves are terrific, and the person playing is going to have a good time. And in a way, I feel like they're taken care of.
Yeah.
They have a VR headset on. And so the focus of our business is actually their friend, their date. And so that person, I wanted them to have a drink in their hand. I wanted them to have the opportunity to do other things. I mean, we've been crazy in our thinking and might do some of these. Like, one is a VR massage. There's a VR massage table, and this is a thing that's been done a few times, where you are laying down and there's an infrared camera above you, and you can see in a headset, where normally there would just be a hole, a heat map of your body, and you can tell where those knots pop up, and you can kind of focus on it. This is just one of many silly examples of having the group mentality be perfect. Also, the performer's Instagram ready, because they've got perfect lighting on them that matches the color coding of the lighting temperature of the projection, which is like a 10 foot by 10 foot projection. So it's almost like a mixed reality environment. So you take a picture. If I take a picture of you as you're ducking from a dinosaur about to bite off your head, everyone's going to understand it, because there's the dinosaur.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've really thought about like the whole experience, and not just like what's going on within the technology itself. It's like you've done a really interesting approach to it that is really about how do you enhance not only for the person who's there, but how do you enhance the overall environment. It's almost like you're thinking about how the people who are watching are part of that audience, and you're bringing something really unique to that space. So can you talk a little bit about like where do you see VR going, specifically either for Redline or just in general, of like how do you want it to grow? What kind of barriers do you want it to push? What do you want it to do in this industry? Because it's still so new and nascent and young.
Start with the bathroom example. I'm just kidding.
Well, but really, it's just about immersing people. I mean, these are the same things that we did when we progressed from black and white photographs to TV screens to IMAX theaters. It's just getting bigger, more immersive. And so we're just sharpening the double-edged sword here, you know? And so you can really go the wrong way, and you can go the right way. I mean, like, even therapy is using VR to do good work with people with immersion therapy. If you're terrified of dogs, like, you put on a headset, there's a little chihuahua barking at you, you can take the headset off if you need to, graduate up to different kinds of things. Or you can do that like horror movies or something, where you've got scorpions crawling at you or something like this, and then give a person a good or bad fright. I mean, actually, there's interesting also things with, what was it? It was giving the deaf experience, I think it was. And my theater company actually does a whole lot of work. We're groundbreaking in Chicago for work with deaf actors. So I care about these kinds of things. Yeah. But it was trying to make people sympathetic to the deaf experience. But what it accidentally did was just like you've only been deaf for like 20 minutes in this experience before, and people were actually at the end less likely to hire a deaf person because they felt so sorry for how limited they were. That's not the point of that experience, though. It was to empower deaf people to be employed more and things like this. So we have just a sharper sword in a way. I think we need to get better at, it's going to expose people's actions as being more of whatever it is. What I want it to do is be a group activity where people go out. It can also be a living room activity, but I don't know. People are going to be punching their TV screens a lot. And it's actually immersion is beautiful unless your kid's crying and it's 1 a.m. and your wife has to get up because you don't know. That might be a personal story. If I was up playing and I didn't have any idea my kid was crying because I'd switched to Beat Saber. I normally play a sailing game that's a lot quieter, and I couldn't hear the kid cry. And so my wife has to tap me on the shoulder, freak me out, and say, hey, Dad, you're up. So, yeah.
You mentioned VR sailing earlier before when we were in pre-production here. Can you talk VR sailing? You're part of a club? This is a thing? This was new information to me, and I'd love to hear more about what that looks like and feels like, and how do you not get seasick?
Well, so I don't know. I don't think I get seasick as much as some people. Certainly, that's a thing that if you're the kind that's going to get sick on a roller coaster, if you put yourself in a VR roller coaster, you're going to get sick, but also, it's part of your brain just adjusting. There's definitely, when you come to Redline VR, we curate your experience. We don't give you the hardcore mainline drugs right away. We walk you up. We start with a little fruit ninja, things like this. For sailing, I grew up sailing with my dad in rural Nebraska, and I haven't been able to do that for a decade. He's getting older. I'm living here. I'm getting emotion in my voice on accident, but I'm getting to do something here, which is to sail and talk to him about sailing again. And so, it's a sailing simulator. They just won a bunch of awards at the latest HTC award ceremony for instruction. And it teaches you how to sail. I wouldn't maybe do this game and then jump right on a boat without any prior experience. But you're definitely going to know a lot more. And they just do a great job of making it feel like you're really on a boat. They nail the audio experience. You hear the gurgling behind you. You hear the wind. And all the mechanics work right. And then they've got haptic response, haptic feedback. Haptic means like vibration. And so when you're pulling on the sail, it's letting it out, and the sound's just all perfect. And I don't know what to say other than I think that the reason I'm able to be the best VR sailor in the world, which I am currently, I'll taunt the world. I'm going to keep taunting the world. There's been a lot of people getting a lot better, and I won't have this title forever, so I might as well enjoy it while I've got it.
Absolutely.
Where am I going after my braggadocio here? But basically, it's because I think if you're looking like a gamer at all the numbers and dials, this game is programmed really well by real sailors, and you can't do as well if I just feel it. I feel the boat's speed, and I don't know, I'm doing well right now.
Yeah, right.
Well, and I love the fact that you can connect with your dad about that too. Is there a mode yet? I'll use the term yet, where you can both play on the same boat together from different parts of the world?
Yes, there is. And actually, there's an older gentleman that's got colon cancer, and it's stage 4, and he's on drugs and about to die. He's in literally the last month of his life, and he's a good friend of mine now because we set up a date to sail almost every other day. And so I talked to him, and I'm sailing with him, and he can't leave his house. He's in too much pain, but he's sailing with me in VR, and it's awesome and beautiful. And there's a lot of stories like that help end of life people do things that they couldn't normally ever do. And I don't know, it's terrific. It really is. And here's one last little half story is that I always used to crew, right? So I'm doing all this stuff on this bigger boat, the big breezy boat, and I'm steering. And then I thought, I've got everything set here. Let me just go up to the part of the boat where I usually used to sit, and I teleport myself over to there. And then I look back and I expect inside my body to see my father, and of course he's not there, and I just start crying.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Just oh man. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that VR can do for different people and different purposes. It's not just the most intense zombie hunting you've ever had in your life, but it is also that.
Right, that opened my mind to a lot. Yeah, that's really. It just seems like there's whole another opportunity right there.
Yeah.
And that was, I guess, that was kind of your question, like what other opportunities exist, and like you're experiencing them outside of the things that you're doing already.
Yeah.
With the VR.
Well, here's one last one quickly, which would just be working out, because the sweating is a little bit of a problem, but I think that we can keep figuring that out with different replacing face masks. But there's VR treadmills they're kind of, is this concave when it's down?
It is.
Concave shaped treadmills. And you put on these really slippery little shoes, and you and your friend can run from zombies together. It's always zombies, but that's really fun. It's really fun to go, and like, shoot him, and have to actually move your physical body and do these things. I mean, it's so immersive.
At the beginning of the interview, you talked a little bit about the escape room experience, and I've done it once in like the physical environment, but talk a little bit more about the virtual environment.
Yeah. So this is going to be still a physical escape room. Like your body still physically needs to move through things, and we really did embrace that. With the theater company again, I'm all about focusing on abilities and disabilities, but sort of part of that is appreciating the ability you have. So we'll make you do some pretty physically challenging things during this. But then also there's an augmented reality component that we're building, and we're actually gonna have an augmented reality billboard when we do open here. And then also some virtual reality components that have projection mapping mixed in with actual headset stuff. So we'll start off on a spaceship, and I don't want to do any spoilers here, but you're going to have to manipulate yourself around and through and outside of this spaceship in different real and virtual ways. That's just really exciting. And also the purpose, to get down to the nuts and bolts of what's the point of technology since the very first levers and hammers, right, is that you're trying to accomplish something. And I think what I want to accomplish is to make people realize that they're part of a greater social group, and that everybody's got different perspectives. Gosh, I love making people realize that other people have different perspectives with my art. But adults never get to disobey and be rewarded for it, to think for themselves. And so that's a really big deal to me, is for the escape room to have somebody telling you what to do, and you getting the instinct that you need to disobey this person, and you're seeing that that's working. That is so satisfying. We don't get to disobey as adults, right? I've got young kids. They disobey all the time. What? I want my chance. Yeah.
If you were a bagel flavor, what bagel flavor would you be and why?
I am absolutely an everything bagel. That should be obvious. You can't eat it without getting a mess. That you've got some bad breath maybe after the experience, but you also never really know what to expect. Like you always think you know what this new place's everything bagel is going to taste like, and it never does. Like caraway seeds or something on this one. What's going on here? That's me. I'm an everything bagel.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so if people wanted to reach out to you to learn more about any of your adventures, how can they find you?
Let's just stick to the website, redlinevr.com.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So that was a fantastic interview.
I think so.
Oh my God, it was amazing.
Oh my gosh. I love the part about him sailing and that experience about connecting every day. I mean, that's definitely way out of my periphery of what will people use VR for. That seems amazing.
And I feel like that's the whole purpose of tech, is being able to pull people closer together and be able to have the experiences they can't otherwise. And that's just a perfect example of what it can be and how it can help the world.
Well, I think too, people think of games as it needs a narrative, but the idea that you create these experiences, whether it's in a bar or in a boat, that are just organic to real life. I think that's a huge opportunity for artists or people that aren't maybe software graphic artists, but they know how to shoot great video, or they know how to make a good composition to imitate real life. And I think that's awesome. That opens up tons of doors for people that maybe don't like to design triangles and squares and stuff all day. So,
yeah, I think it's really cool how that type of VR allows people to create their own narrative within a technology space. And I'm excited to see where Aaron goes. I'm excited to see where Redline goes. And I'm excited to see how all of you listeners are kind of inspired by this and what happens next.
So we'd love for you guys to follow along, subscribe. You can now find us on iTunes and Spotify. We're going to continue to add places where you guys like to be and apps that you'd like to be in. And really, we'd love your feedback. If you want to put a comment on the website, sign up for the newsletter, put a comment on YouTube, feel free to reach out to any of those mediums, and we'd love to find out, what is the content you're really interested in? How can we help, enlighten your commute in the morning?
Thanks for listening.
See you next month.
You're listening to EBS 8-Bit Studio Station.